On this episode of Travels with Bill, we're looking at where something used to be. Well, kind of anyway. See the basement and see the house? This house is about to be moved. That's the basement it used to be on. Now, the day before we were here shooting the video, they moved the house up onto the rack and got it off the basement. Now it's all ready to go. All we need is, well, some luck to get it on down the road and to where it's going to. This particular house was going to be torn down. They want to put a new house here, so instead of tearing it down, someone else purchased the house and they're paying to have it moved. And here we are getting going. Now, this particular part of the video is being shown at 3 times normal speed. The reason I'm doing that is it's very delicate work when you start moving a house out of the yard, so they're going really slow, but you can see how fast the people are walking and just get some idea of how slow they're actually moving that house. They do get going faster as time goes on, but it's very delicate. The goal here is to move it without cracking the drywall. It's very specialized equipment being used to move it. Pretty standard truck, but the trailer itself is really special for house moving. It'll sway and move, and we'll actually show you a picture of that a little later on as it goes around a corner, so you can see just how much the house can lean while it's moving. Hydro crew's never far behind here. Actually, they're never far ahead. They go in front of the house to make sure they can get under the hydro lines. There's more on that to come too. They're slowly but surely working on it. Eventually, they'll get this house out of the yard. Well, they did. We'll jump ahead here. This is real time now, and the house is stuck. The problem, of course, is the trees. This particular house is 46 feet wide by about 90 feet long. It's got that sticky out bit, and if it didn't have that, if it was a smaller, normal-sized house, well, they'd be long gone already. They thought they'd moved enough trees here, but when they got the truck going, it just didn't work. The tractor's here to help pull the truck out because it had to come uphill onto the road, and with that much house, it's hard for it to go with its own traction. They needed a tractor here to get going. They needed a tractor at the far end as well to help get it into the field. Well, you can see what we're waiting on here. A guy standing on top of the skidder cutting down some trees. It's a pretty neat power saw. It's really long, so they can reach up and cut the trees. They've already smushed some of the trees with the skidder. They're getting some more limbs out of the way here, hoping to be able to make that corner. They had to back up and take a second try at it, but they did eventually get going. The thought was it'd be about a half an hour to get down this first piece of road, but we used up a bunch of drone batteries just getting this far, and that's how we kind of missed coming around the corner. We had to go back to change batteries yet again. They're going really slow. This is still in real time. I wanted you to appreciate how much work the crew is doing here, one step at a time, making sure that house is clearing the trees. If there weren't trees, they'd go a lot faster, and you'll see that later on, how they do move quicker on an open road, especially if they have pavement. But here in the early going, they're making sure they're not going to accidentally damage that house as they go by the trees. Here we are moving again. Now the truck is more onto level ground here. They've gone away from the yard site a bit, but we're still only maybe a quarter mile away from where the house started out. And we're going to stop and do some measurements. That's the Manitoba Hydro crew. You can kind of see them by their fluorescent vests they have on. And they've got a hot stick. They're going to use that to actually see how tall the house is. Part of this whole goal here is you have to get it under the hydro lines. So by measuring it now, they can make sure it's going to fit. And if they have a problem with the hydro line, well, they're there with a bucket truck to move the line and get the house under it. You can see the hot stick going up with the tape measure attached to the top. They'll get it to the top, measure all the way down to the ground. Now, I said hydro line, and if you're in Manitoba, that makes sense. Of course, in other places, you'd call that an electrical line. Here, it's Manitoba Hydro as the provider, so for slang, we just say hydro line when we really mean electricity. Well, the measurements look good. They've got it. They can bring that on down now, and it seems like the house is going to make it under most of the lines, which is good news because it would be a lot of work if you had to start moving things around just to get it to go on by. We were filming for about 2.5 hours, so I did a close-up here so you can see the house going by the trees and just how close it gets, having that extra little sticky out part. That seems to be a sunroom, and there's something really neat about it. When this goes around the corner, I want you to look in the windows of the sunroom and see what's in there to see just how good these guys are at getting that house on down the road. Just barely contacting the trees there a little bit, the branches not doing too much damage as the house rolls on by. Well, everybody's kind of waiting to see the house in person and how it goes around and how big it looks. So here we are. We're right at the first corner. See how it's got that big tip to it? Now that's not hurting the house. It's fully supported. But by having the tip like that, it lets it get around the corner in one piece, and the truck has to sway like that. A little bit of a quick stop, then you're going to back up and then get going again. We'll get the house to go on by. This too is in real time, but in a minute we're going to speed it up again because some of the movements when they got to town were kind of slow, and if you're like me, maybe you don't have the same level of patience to watch it. I will, though, at the very end of the video, put a real-time version of them going through Swan River so you can see just how careful that process was and why it took a little while if you were tied up in traffic. So the house getting going here pretty good, and they're onto the pavement now, so they go a couple miles on pavement before they turn back onto gravel. They couldn't make the big corner in Swan River where the McDonald's is located because there's too many street posts there. They did, however, manage to make a different corner and get through town and work their way around it. What do you do when there's a street post in the way? Well, I've got video of that too. You can see exactly how they move the signs. And it's not what you think. You kind of think it'd be like a big machine. Not so much. Okay, it's time to peek in the windows of that sunroom and see if you can see what I see as it goes on by. There's a stepladder in there. Now, I assume they did that just for fun. Maybe it's holding something up, but I don't think so. I think the whole point of the stepladder being there is to show you how stable they can move the house. After all they've done, they haven't upset that stepladder yet, and I bet they won't all the way to the destination. We're filming today because we got invited out. They knew it was something cool and they thought it would be a wonderful Travels with Bill episode, and I tend to agree. It's not too often you see a house move. Actually, quite a few people came out to watch all along the route. There was people stopped to see it go on by. Kind of a big deal. I remember back when they moved an elevator once. It was a huge deal, but back then I didn't have a camera, so I kind of missed it. We're always looking for interesting things. If you know of one, get in touch. I did promise we'd show you what you do about those pesky signs. Now, the house is too wide. If they don't move that sign, they're going to knock it down and break it, cause damage to it and the house. It's a wooden post, so a couple guys and a minute or so, they can give it a wiggle, get some space in the ground, and then pull it on up, tip it over. The crew comes back after it, puts the signs back up, but the house can go on by without hurting the sign or the house. Well, they'll run back to the truck, and then we're going to make that big corner in Swan River. We're blocking Highway 10 here, and as we pull out, you'll see a bunch of traffic that's kind of waiting for a house to get by. It's not what you expect, is it? This is, again, 3 times normal speed. You can see that by how the vehicles are zipping by so quick. But we need to speed it up because the house goes kind of slow around the corner. They're doing that to make sure it's safe. They don't want to dump a house. Can you imagine if it fell off, how much trouble there'd be? And a lot of cleanup. I will show you the same shot though after the video so you can see in real time how they went around the corner. You can see the folks out there, there's somebody filming it, some people watching it too, as slowly but surely they make sure they can get on by. The hydro truck's gone off ahead of them. That's actually it, just a little bit of it you're seeing there in the video, and then it drives away to the next hydro line. They're just making sure they clear this one okay and off to the next. They've still got about 5 miles to move this house. Now, I don't know exactly what it cost, but the rumor is around $70,000 to get this moved. And maybe in the comments, someone that owns the house could chime in on exactly what the cost of the move was as compared to the cost of the new basement and such to put it on. Not cheap, but still cheaper than building a new house, and the best recycling I've ever seen, because the other option, of course, would be to tear the house down, build something brand new, and waste all of that material, which really is perfectly good. They're going to make a wonderful home out of this in its new location, and the original owners, well, they get their spot back to make a brand new house. That pretty much does it for this episode of Travels with Bill. You can see the traffic's getting going there. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. We've got all sorts of interesting things from around Manitoba, Canada, and everywhere. We'd certainly love for you to see it all. Well, the house is going to get moving here. They actually went pretty fast down the gravel, so fast they were kicking up dust. So maybe they got a little bit of dust in the house because it probably wasn't expecting that when it was built. There's a carport on the end there. That's why it looks kind of hollow. Anyway, off it goes. I'm going to leave you with that video, this same shot, but in real-time mode, so you can see how they got around the corner. Off they go down the gravel. Goodbye, house, and welcome to your brand new home.